Hello, I'm your storyteller, Vicky Locke. Yes, I'm responsible for everything you read, hear, and see in the next few minutes. This story is for all writers who are a little fearful of your pen, paper, or keyboard. You are the ones with the story bouncing around inside your head, and you have virtually plugged up every outlet to keep it from leaking. Why? Don't have the time? Or fear of judgment? That all ends today. The story experience I have for you today is designed to move you ever closer to writing. Anything, blogs, journals, copy, stories, letters, reports, novels, greeting cards, notes, screenplays, video scripts, and just about anything that uses words to share a thought. This experience will also fortify what coaches, teachers, mentors, and psychologists have known for a while. Writing is therapeutic. It gives you an outlet for your stress, frustration, and surprisingly, joy. Enough about that. I'm anxious to get to the story. You will find it fun. It tickles your imagination and explores possibilities and opportunities you might not dare claim for yourself. So, relax, and for the next few minutes, focus on how talented you really are. And now, I'm pleased to present Madame Owley's book tour. Our story takes place in a fantastical world of writing. Thoughts are scribbled on paper, blog posts, on the back of napkins, on laptops, tablets, and phones, and in other ways, all designed to preserve and share a thought. So, come with me to the world of the fantastical writer's library and beyond, where we will meet many characters, several of them you probably know very well. This is Greta. She wants to be a writer. She's already a writer, but she doesn't know it. She doesn't think she can write well enough to call herself a writer. Although she longs to capture the stories floating around in this chaotic and jaded world, she's reluctant to take pen to paper for fear she'll be judged. However, she is adamant about finding a way to help others, herself included, cope with the confusion around them. One night, Greta had a dream that her writing was the catalyst for others to not just write, but to feel better about their lives. Her dream made it seem that writing was like a soothing medicine. Greta saw great things happening in her dream. She saw great books and articles that helped to provide a respite from the fog of complex topics. There were mysteries where there was always one question that hung in the air after the last page. However, Greta only wrote in her journal, occasionally. She didn't dare venture into other writings. Her journal was private. No one would ever see it, so they would not be able to judge her work. And showing her work to others was absolutely, positively out of the question. Then one morning, after waking from one of her dreams, she realized she was more confident. Perhaps she could help. Her dreams had taken her to the fantastical writer's library, where, according to her dream, virtually anything was possible. Though she was a bit vague on what this library thing really was, her dreams revealed to her just how to visit this magical place again. A night of sleep would take her there. So that evening, she went to bed with a strong desire to visit the fantastical writer's library. And so she did. She wrapped herself in the covers, took several deep breaths, and focused her mind on this magical trip. Then, seemingly in an instant, Greta was there. She had this strange sensation. Was she still asleep, or was this a dream? Greta didn't know. But soon she found herself stepping through the doors of an ancient building. Was this indeed the fantastical writer's library? It was dusty, empty, and hollow. Not exactly what she had imagined. The shelves were lined with books and pamphlets and papers and more books, and the swirling dust made her cough. There was little here to interest her. Her excitement waned. She felt isolated and alone. It was stuffy here and uninspiring. She immediately regretted wasting her dream to visit here. She envisioned herself soaring over beautiful rivers, snow-capped mountains, beautiful verdant forest. But she was in this dusty place. She began to look around for the door to leave. Then she heard a small voice from somewhere in the vast space. Greta looked high and around and stared down the long, dark hallway, but could see no one. "Doubts already? O ye of little faith," said the voice behind her. Greta spun around and found no one. She heard the voice again. This time the voice sounded closer and lower. Greta dropped her gaze, and there, before and below her, was a tiny woman with wrinkles sliding elegantly down her face. She had a smile that clearly came with wattage. It lit the space around her. She was so tiny, she could have been a child, but her eyes looked wise beyond her years. She was dressed in a shawl and a long purple robe. She had feathers in her hair, and they were even woven into her dress. But wait, that wasn't a hat. It was her. Her head was wrapped in dazzling colors with more feathers that seemed to be eyes, like an owl. Her eyes were rimmed by large glasses, and above the glasses were painted even more eyes. Clearly, this tiny lady didn't miss seeing a thing. She carried a cluster of feathers in her hand and waved them around as she spoke. Greta was speechless. She was unsure of what to say. She had never heard a voice so pure, full of warmth and light as the voice she heard now. Was this tiny person real? Then Greta remembered she was dreaming. Greta watched as this tiny figure moved toward her and looked up into her eyes. Greta could swear the color of the feathers and the tiny person's eyes and face were changing, all of them beautiful. Greta was mesmerized. "Hello! I'm Madam Owley. I'll be your guide," said the tiny woman. She waved her tiny hand, the one holding the bunch of colored feathers around the space. Particles of dust swirled into the air. No, now it wasn't dust. It was sparkling particles. They danced around the two of them. The feathers seemed to spread light everywhere they touched in the well-lit space. "Hello up there. I'm here to show you around. Do say something," said the tiny woman. Greta could only watch as the tiny woman's face, hair, feathers, and dress slowly changed. She was a beautiful little woman, but you had to look fast because her appearance shifted so quickly. Greta smiled, then spoke. "You are changing, even now as I look at you," Greta said, leaning down to get closer. "Of course wisdom changes. It's not static, my dear. Wisdom is like a powerful river. It flows and grows, releasing and retrieving bits of itself as it moves along." Madame Owley clearly could see everything from where her tiny feet stood. "Oh, forgive me. Hello," said Greta. "You don't seem to have very many visitors here. It's empty," Greta continued. "That is a very good thing. Now I can focus all my attention on you. The dust will take care of itself," said the tiny, colorful soul. Her height, even with the tallest feather, put her just above Greta's knees. Greta could not close her mouth. She'd seen many things, but this... She was in a new world of her own making, but she felt she had always known it. "Feels familiar, huh?" said Madame Owley. "Why, yes," said Greta. "How did you know that you've been here before? But you never knew you were here. I know everything about you. That's why I wore my purple feathers today. I know you love purple," said the little fairy-like lady. Then the little woman used her tiny fingers and pinched both sides of her purple robe and gave Greta a low bow. "Welcome," she said. Then she danced gleefully in a circle, singing a little song to herself. Greta opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Speechless, huh? Most people who get this far are speechless. Just can't seem to get the words to line up and march in a straight line, Madame Owley said. Well, Greta's words trailed off. "You are wasting time, young lady. Are you ready to go?" "Go where?" said Greta. "Just follow me. Do as I say, and you'll be fine," said Madame Owley. Greta nodded. "You see, you are here to see the value of your words. You water them down. You ignore their power. You don't give them the full reign they deserve. You don't let them fill the world with your full value." This magical soul continued. "You seem not to want to acknowledge the power you really have. My job is to get you through that door, to see the awesome power of your words. When you are through, you can take that power with you and show the world how important words, your words, really are. Understand?" said Madame Owley. Greta was more confused than ever. She remembered this was a dream, and it wasn't supposed to make sense, so she nodded to the tiny lady. This small person left her in awe. She wasn't real, was she? At least one of her was real, right? Greta asked herself. Her mind was spinning, but her feet were willing to move to follow this magical soul. "Okay, follow me. I'll show you the way to where you've said you want to go." Madame Owley nodded toward the large, ornate door at the back of the building. Greta whirled around, and there, at the end of the dusty hall, was a massive door. How could she miss that? It wasn't there before, was it? Where did it come from? The door was so large it filled the back end of the building. Madame Owley sternly led the way to the massive door. Greta could not see the little woman's legs. She could only guess they were shorter than hers. Yet this little dynamo moved swiftly with no effort. She appeared to float. But that didn't make sense. But then nothing was making sense to Greta now. The young woman scurried to keep up with her tiny guide. The door opened, unaided. A thin sliver of colorful light sliced through the massive door. The little woman stopped at the doors and turned to face Greta directly. Stay close to me, dear. There's nothing here to cause you any real harm, but there's plenty here that will distract you and delay your success, said the madam. The little woman then faced the doors and moved through them as if she had on silent electric roller skates under that purple robe. Greta stayed close. Once they were both through the door, it closed quietly behind them. After taking a few steps, Greta looked up in amazement at what was before her. A beautiful forest. Trees, tall trees. Their leafy canopy provided shade from the hot afternoon sun. A beautiful forest. There were books of all kinds. I'll step right over here to let them know that our tour is about to begin, said the little woman. Then she disappeared through a door that seemed to appear solely to allow this fairy lady to leave. Greta's awe did not diminish. This was a magical forest. It was as if the trees were alive with words. The trees were talking to each other and talking to Greta. She had to smile at this. It was a pleasant forest. She opened her mouth to speak, but found that she didn't need to speak. It was her mind that the trees were listening to. It was her mind that was talking to them. Then things changed yet again. Greta was startled by a quick movement next to her, and there he was standing next to her on his back legs. A fox, a strange fox, a big one, like nothing she had seen before. It actually spoke to her, not with his mind. His long snout moved the words from his mouth. It really spoke to her, and surprisingly, Greta understood. You don't really want to get mixed up in all this writing stuff, do you? Said the talking animal. Greta could only stare at this thing in awe. You want to write a story about the girl who goes to the magical land of the talking animals? Ha ha ha! No one will read it. No one will care, said the fox mockingly. Now I can show you something else that you might like. A beautiful forest. You can just wander around in it as long as you want. You never have to leave, and you never have to write a word about it or do anything else of value, he said confidently. No one will expect anything of you. You won't be bothered by those pesky dreams, continued the fox. Greta's eyes widened, and she leaned in toward the fox. I'll show you how to talk about writing. Pretend you are writing. Talk about other writers, but you never have to write a single word. You can just say you did, said the fox. The space suddenly got brighter. Madame Owley appeared. Her feathers were glowing. The color of her feathers were changing quickly now. Even her glasses were changing. Her smile was gone. Clearly, she was not amused. Roger, don't you have some place to be? She said to the fox. Ah, Madame Owley, I was hoping you could give me a little advice. I, too, want to be a guide. You know how much I like to talk about writing and other important things, said the fox. Madame Owley's eyes got very serious. Then she raised her hand and snapped her fingers. A small animal flitted from a nearby tree and scampered away in the distance. Look, a squirrel, said Madame Owley excitedly. In an instant, Roger the Fox turned and sprinted off after the squirrel, who, like always, would elude the fox. Greta was still staring at the fox as he ran full speed toward the squirrel. He was making no progress. Madame Owley cleared her throat loudly. Greta turned toward the magical little woman. Writing will take more than just talk, my dear. You must read and write some more. It is the way to learn and grow. If you want to be a writer, you must be a reader, and you must also be an observer. So much of this world presents itself as something other than words. You must be able to see with every part of you. Then you write. Madame Owley said, looking directly at Greta. She grew more serious than before. Her eyes grew even larger. But most importantly, she said, you must not let your creative spirit be stifled by those who choose to judge you and your work. Greta was quiet. She was thinking about what the woman said. You must not get distracted by little flashy things. You must focus on what you want. Otherwise, you will be like Roger the Fox, who runs after every squirrel he sees, yet catches only those who are themselves distracted. Understand, my dear? Madame Owley's eyes softened as she spoke. I think so. If you help me, said Greta. I can help, but you must have patience. You must do this yourself. I offer guidance. The real miracle of shifting the pictures and words from your mind across the universe and into the mind of another is yours to achieve, Madame Owley sighed. I never thought about it that way, as a miracle, said Greta. Why not? Isn't that what communicating is? Shifting thoughts from one person to another? You have no idea what a jungle it is between your thoughts and the mind of another. It's one thing to get the thought to them. It's quite another for it to mean the same thing when it gets there. Writing is just another form of communicating. So come with me, and I will show you what I mean. Madame Owley started to float off or skate away. Greta wasn't quite sure which it was, but she followed. It was a beautiful walk through the forest. The sounds, the smells, the air, it was all very familiar to her. Greta loved the forest. She loved nature. Bright lights loomed behind the trees ahead. As the pair grew closer, the gloriously large trees opened onto a vast, bright area. It had tables, little nooks, shelves. The tables were laden with books and pamphlets. Go ahead, look around. I'll be right over here. I'll know if you need me, said the madam. Greta walked over to the table of books. She was surprised to find a beautiful door. The door was made of smooth wood. It was quite large and had no handle. But it didn't act like wood. It was glass, transparent. As she stood there, she wondered how it was possible for the door to look like glass. And then from the other side of the door, she heard the crackle of gunfire. 1, 2, 3 shots, then more. There were rushing footsteps and then more gunshots. But she saw no one. Hey, he went that way, Lieutenant. Okay, I'll take the front door, and you guys take the back. Greta quickly stepped away from the door. She wondered if this writing thing was safe. She bumped into the table behind her. It was then she noticed all the books were crime stories. Crime in the morning, crime in the afternoon, crime on the train, visions of crime, crime in the dark, crime in the winter, crime on the beach, crime on a hot summer night, and many more. Greta felt a warm presence next to her. Things got brighter. Madame Owley was there, half smiling, all serious. "The writing possibilities are endless, dear," said Madame Owley. "But I don't know anything about crime stories. Do I?" Greta asked, fearing the answer she might get. "You don't have to write about crime. People write what they're passionate about, my dear. What are you passionate about?" "I don't know. I just like to scribble about things," said Greta. "Passions are as unique and plentiful as the people who have them. No need to settle for just one or two. Those are paupers' passions. You can have as many passions as you want, as long as you nurture each one. Now come, there is more to see." The pair continued walking down the path until they reached another table laden with books. Madame Owley motioned to Greta to look through the many stacks. Behind the glass wood door came a blood-curdling scream of a woman clearly in fear. "No, no, please don't," the woman cried. "You are mine to do with as I please," said a gruff male voice. "I'll do whatever you want. All I ask is that you let me do one thing for you," she pleaded. There was a struggle. Toppled furniture and broken glass, then a gunshot. The man groaned in pain. Then there was silence. "I didn't see that coming," said Greta. Good stories are unpredictable. They keep you leaning forward for more intrigue. The little woman took Greta's hand and led her to the next table. "You'll like this one," said Madame Owley. Greta walked past the table filled with colorful books and stepped next to the glassy door. The sounds made her laugh. It was the sound of children laughing, giggling. A few were calling out words, practicing their reading skills. "I don't want to go to sleep now. Read it again, please," said an unseen, high-pitched voice. "No more tonight. It's time for sleep. I'll read more tomorrow," said a grown-up voice. Greta could not help but smile. She looked down at Madame Owley, and the little lady was smiling too, almost giggling. A writer never knows what impact their words will have on people, even the little ones, like me, said Madame Owley. "Come, there's more to see," said the tiny, giggling fairy lady. As they walked away, Madame Owley pointed and whispered to Greta, "Look over there." Greta followed Madame Owley's pointing finger and eyes. There in the nearby meadow was a sight she did not expect. Roger Fox was still chasing a tiny squirrel. The squirrel dashed up one tree, leapt over the branches to another tree, and sped away toward yet another tree. Before resuming the chase, Roger Fox sat at the base of a tree to catch his breath. "Distractions. It never pays to chase them," Madame Owley told Greta. "Come, there's nothing new to see here, but there is more to see out there," said the madam. The tiny woman and her guest walked toward the next table in the forest. Now, by now, Greta knew to acknowledge the books on the table and listen carefully at the glassy wooden door. "Oh, John," said a breathy woman's voice. "Oh, Mary," said a sexy male voice. "Hold me close, touch me here and there, and linger at the spot you know so well," said the female voice. "Oh, Mary, 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 I must have you," said the male voice. "You get the idea. Come along, dear," said Madame Owley. "Yes, I get the idea. A few more minutes, please," said Greta. Words can evoke emotions that are pleasurable. Oh, so pleasurable. They can send your readers to a place of euphoria, a place of joy, said Madame Owley, as her feathers changed colors and rearranged themselves yet again. "May we stay longer?" asked Greta. "Young lady, do you really not know what happens next?" asked Madame Owley. Greta lowered her head sheepishly. "I guess I do," said Greta. "There are some things, dear, that are best experienced when you are awake," said Madame Owley. "There's one more stop. You'll find this one very relaxing," said the madam. The two walked along the long path, a path that seemed much longer than the others. During that walk, the petite woman sprinkled her words with warmth coated in wisdom. Greta was all ears. "As you decide what you will write, keep in mind that writing is not just a skill. It is a journey. You must start out like you can hold out. Make time for yourself to observe, feel, and write. Don't get caught up in the rules. There are enough critics and editors for that. When you open your journal at night, understand that you are sharing you with the universe," said Madame Owley. Greta looked confused. Journaling gives you a safe place to explore your ideas, your thoughts, and your dreams. It is where you practice saying your thoughts out loud and to experience what it feels like to be heard. It is where you get to drain away your fears, stresses, and doubts. You can leave them on the page. You get to feel the power of words. It is where you can become anything you want. You decide, said Madame Owl. You can be your own hero without writing, but it's not nearly as much fun. When you write, you have the power to create characters, situations, and worlds that no one has created before. Why? Because you can. Then you won't need to meet me occasionally and share your writing journey. But I would really love to know about whatever you do, said Madame Owley. The little fairy's feathers were not just changing colors. They were fluttering and swirling in the air. Greta knew she should not ignore this advice. And for those who attempt to shift you away from your writing goals, or any other kind of goals, ignore them. Don't argue, don't explain, simply ignore them. Roger Fox lives in your world, too, said the little owl-like fairy. They soon approached the writer's door. This was unlike the other glassy doors. This one was solid wood with an ornate plate, shiny like gold. Wouldn't it be strange if it were gold? Greta thought. Yes, it's gold, my dear. Take hold of the handle and open it wide to the world of your dreams. Your own world, your own place, said the tiny queen. Remember, you have to believe in yourself. Don't let others dictate what you believe about you. And don't make excuses for what you have not done. Just get busy about the business of doing it. Excuses are worse than lies, for they are only lies in disguise. And with that, the little madam smiled and vanished. Greta stepped forward. The doorknob began to glow, and the door opened wide. She walked into the coziest bedroom one could imagine. The luxurious covers, the cool sheets, and the perfect mattress. She didn't recognize this place, but she loved it. Although she didn't remember how, she found herself waking refreshed in her own bedroom. She stretched and opened the window to the morning sun. She was greeted by a squirrel sitting on a tree branch, watching her. Did that squirrel just wink at me? Thought Greta. This has been a Wise Women Right Now production. Audio engineering by Ugo Galindo at Castle Studios. For questions, comments, rants, and raves, email me. Thank you for sharing your time.